everyone to this information session for the, sorry, I'm seeing someone doing it. For the Edward L. Bernays Mark of Excellence Awards. I am a proud board director at large of PRSA San Diego Imperial Counties, and I'll be moderating today's conversation. So what we're going to be doing today is I'll be introducing PRSA for those who are new with our organization, the Bernays as well. I'm going to introduce our three panelists who are joining us here today. Then we have some prepped questions for them, so I'll just focus on three of them, and then we'll open it up for just your questions live for that last section, which I think will be very helpful to learn more about the awards. So PRSA San Diego Imperial Counties is one of more than 100 chapters within the Public Relations Society of America, the world's largest and foremost organization of public relations professionals. The chapter maintains a broad range of professional development activities to strengthen the professionalism of its members. Members represent a wide range of experience levels and practice areas, including corporate, agency, government, nonprofit, and education. So now to the awards. The Edward L. Bernays Mark of Excellence Awards recognize the expertise and dedication of public relations professionals within San Diego and Imperial Counties. The Public Relations Society of America, San Diego and Imperial Counties present the Silver and Bronze Bernays Awards annually to recognize public relations programs and tactics incorporating research, planning, creativity, implementation, and evaluation. And now a quick note on why we're doing this. This initiative came from a plan drafted by our Diversity and Inclusion Chair, Jamie Hampton, who's also a panelist today, and the committee supporting that role this year. The effort is to ensure that we continue to help spotlight and recognize PR pros from historically underrepresented communities in the field of public relations as a whole. For this effort, we reach out to BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and PR pros living with disabilities, while also opening this opportunity for all first-timers to join in and learn with us. So some quick introductions for our panelists and previous Bernays winners. Sarah Lemons is PRSA San Diego Imperial County's past president and senior community relations manager for the city of Carlsbad. Thank you for joining us today, Sarah. Jamie Hampton is our PRSA San Diego Imperial County's diversity and inclusion chair and CEO of Mixed Communications and Tracks Public Relations. Thank you for being here, Jamie. And then Barbara Cosio Moreno is Director at Large with the Professional Development Committee with PRSA San Diego Imperial Counties and District Communications Manager for Senate President Pro Tempore Tony G. Atkins at California State Senate. Thank you for being here, Barbara. So let's see. We're gonna get started with the prep questions, but before that, I wanted for our attendees to just chat in where you're coming from and like your day job, the organization that you want to tell us a bit about, and then what was your favorite thing that you did with that organization this past year? Whether it's like full campaign that you put together or a tactic that you feel really proud of. I think that'll help us in the second section of this. Let me admit one more person, and it'll help us to get to know you a little bit. Okay, so while you do that, I'll start with my first question for our panelists, which is, what separates the Bernays categories into campaigns and tactics? What is different here in the submission process? And again, just volunteer your knowledge with these questions.
I can kick us off with that.
Thank you.
Generally, the way our company approaches the campaigns versus the tactics is the campaigns are kind of the big, comprehensive efforts, and the tactics feed into it. So a big campaign could be like a media relations program for a 20th anniversary of a nonprofit, and it's all of the things that you do. But the tactics would be like a press conference, an op-ed, a newsletter, the smaller pieces that combine together to make campaigns.
Yeah, I think just adding on to what Jamie said, a little bit of the way that these are judged differently, which is something I take into consideration when preparing our entries, is the tactics that you submit actually are evaluated also based on creativity. So both your tactics and campaigns are going to be evaluated on 4 key things. It's going to be your research, your planning, your implementation, and your evaluation. Those are the 4 main sections that you're going to get scored on. But the difference between the two is that your tactics also get a little extra element of creativity that they get added in on. And that's actually worth a fair amount of points. It's worth a good 30 points of 100. So I think that's kind of one of like the technical differences in terms of like when you're creating your entry, like to place a little bit more focus on like how the creativity played into the tactic that you used and how that helped you maybe reach your target audience and reach those measurable objectives.
Thank you. Barb, do you want to add something, or should we go to the?
Sorry, I was reading the comments, so I'm getting distracted.
And as
apparently my attention span fails at like 5:30. No, I can. When I follow Sarah, I always feel like I don't have anything better to say. She has so much institutional knowledge with the Bernays. I was really, really honored to have won awards in this, to have several actually Bernays awards. But I think what Jamie said is also really, just really key to remember, because there's lots of little things that go into doing an overall campaign. Whatever, someone's sneezing in my house, I apologize if you heard that. If try to figure out what you have the most strength in to really display the work. So if you have enough background information to go into the planning, you know, all of the things that you learn, I would recommend going forward, you keep everything. So PDFs of like early logos, or, you know, sheets that you like scribbled on, those things I use to enter the Integrated Communications Award that I won in 2019. But all of that stuff matters. So don't throw anything away when you're working on really big campaigns, because that will also help you go back and try to decide, like, is it the tactic that I want to submit for, or was it just the overall plan that we did and all the work and, you know, all of that. So sorry, that's my answer.
That is awesome. So all that, the brainstorming, everything that went there, storyboarding, that is material that can be collected. And we'll talk about more about how to collect materials efficiently in one of our questions. As a reminder, if you joined in, we're chatting in where you're joining us from, so the organization that you would love to represent in the Bernays, and also the campaign, just anything, a campaign, a tactic that you were the most proud of this past year. Tell us about it in the chat, and it'll help us as we move to the second round of questions to get to know you a little bit better. So my next question is, what is the scoring criteria used by the jury, and who comprises the jury?
So I guess I can kick that one off just because I've worked on this a lot. I've helped plan several Bernays awards. It's been a lot of fun to do that these past few years. So part of that came with actually working with partner chapters to judge our entries. So how judging works for the Bernays awards is we work with PRSA National, and we get paired up with another chapter somewhere around the United States to judge our chapter's entry. Usually they're a chapter that's of a similar size to San Diego and Imperial counties. And this year we happen to be paired up with the Mississippi State chapter. We'll be judging our award entries. And let's see, the jury, so it's compiled of volunteers from their chapter. We usually require or request that all judges have at least 5 years of PR experience to serve as a judge. And we do like to encourage that our accredited public relations professionals also serve as judges as well, that just have a little bit more of that senior level, more years of expertise. So yeah, typically they're judged by another chapter, and most entries get judged by two judges. And then if needed, if there's like a big discrepancy in scores, like you see like a big like 20-point difference or something, we usually ask for a third judge to come in to try and like bring some consensus as to what the overall score should be. And scoring is average, so based on the two or three scores we get, we take the combined average of the three, and that becomes your total score. Scores are judged on a 100-point scale. If you guys download the call for entries from our website, it has all the breakdown for you. There's some really great like tip sheets that show you how much points are placed on each section. But like I mentioned, I think in both tactics and campaigns, most of the points go towards your planning and implementation. And then on the tactics, the creativity are generally worth the most points. So I always say, don't forget the other sections of research and evaluation are still really important as well, but make sure you really spend some time on those other key sections that tell the story of how you planned and implemented your campaigns and tactics.
Thank you for that one. Jamie, Barb, should we go on to the next question? Perfect. So, how do you all plan for Bernays? How much time do you commit to each? Do you have any project management tips? And how do you collect materials efficiently?
I can kick us off with this one. For those that don't know much about MXD, we've won quite a few awards in Bernays competitions in the last few years. Last year we won 14 awards. The year before we won 10 awards. I think the year that we won 10, we won an award for every submission that we entered, plus special recognition. So we actually won one more award than we had entered. So I feel like we've got our project management down. We do have a team. At the time that we had won those awards, our agency was about 8 people, and not everybody works on them, but I think it does for us help that we have quite a few people working on it. So the way we approach it is first we print out the awards, or we work in Basecamp, so project management software. We post it there, and everybody in our team sort of thinks through their work for the past year to say, what is it that we can submit and which categories do we think we can submit it in? Then we'll narrow from there. I usually will come in just because I see the awards every year and eliminate the ones that I have a gut feeling wouldn't win. Or that I think we might not have enough background information in order to supplement. You enter 2 pieces, the writing about your work and then the backup documents. And if I don't think we have enough for either of those categories, we'll take them out. Then we will go through the process of writing the first draft of the narrative, so about the award entry and why we like it. In this phase of the project, we typically won't judge our writing. So it's a little bit more stream of consciousness, get it out on paper, not worrying about the length or the amount of details, or is it all the right language? Because often we will get through that first draft and realize, actually, we don't have enough to win in this category, but we don't realize it until we've gone through that exercise of starting to draft it. So then we'll walk away from those, come back the next day and look at them and say, okay, is this really good enough? And we will often eliminate some entries from that point. Then when we get into the fine tuning, you'll see that when you enter the awards, you actually have to fit it on 2 pages of a certain sized font. It gets very specific. So we'll start then digging into the quality of the writing and the organizing of the writing. And I think this is the part that probably makes the biggest difference in our actual scores at the end, is we will walk through every little thing that the award entry says you have to have. You have to have 2 types of research, primary and secondary. So every one of our award entries will say primary research this, secondary research this. And your awards are judged against yourself. So what you say you're going to accomplish and what your goals are what you have to prove that you've done. So then we'll look at, oh, we said we were going to get 20 stories or reach 1 million people. At the end of the awards, we'll look to make sure we answered that. Did we achieve the 20 stories? Did we reach the 1 million people? So in our project management, we're just really careful about that detail. Simultaneously, because we work in Google, the Google space, it's really collaborative. We'll create our folders. There are 4 sections in each award that you have to provide backup material for. So we'll put the 4 folders for each award. It's like research, planning, results. Sarah probably can clarify the actual categories. And then our team just starts dumping stuff in there. And in this case, I like to think not too big or not too small. If there's a tweet that a text that a client sent us that said, oh my gosh, so much media showed up, blah, 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 I'll screen grab that text and put it in there. If we've got raw notes from meetings in like a Google Doc, like our agendas, we'll take notes in the agendas. I'll find the right page in there that kind of shows some background thinking. And so I guess it doesn't have to be so formal. Not all of your background materials have to be so formal, but we'll dump everything in, and then we go through and weed through it and say, okay, like how much do we need? When we're choosing our awards that we want to enter, we also think about, do we have enough background information in each folder? So each one of those 4 categories has to have a certain amount of materials to back it up. And if one's light, usually for us, it's the research category. We might consider maybe we don't have enough research to prove the quality of this. And then we work backwards from the timeline, right? So they are due on a certain date by a certain time. I just highly recommend to try not to enter them at the last moment for 2 reasons. One is you're uploading PDFs to a website, and sometimes you forget how long it's going to take for the PDFs to upload. And I've lost too many years of my life waiting down to the minute to make sure I hit the deadline as our PDFs are uploading. And we were, the fellow guests or speakers and I were laughing about how many times we had to call Sarah for help. And sometimes there's just technical difficulties, or maybe in like our case, we uploaded it to the wrong thing and had to have somebody move it into a different area. And I just never like to take that for granted. So work backward from your deadline, but try to be done the day or 2 before, just to allow space for other issues that you didn't anticipate. That's usually how we approach it.
I think that's a fantastic explanation, Jamie, of what it's like to enter. I would say it is a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but it is such an amazing feeling to do all that work as a team and get the award, especially to either be named best in show, get the award of excellence. I mean, those types of awards. I had answered a question to Arturo about this. It's the greatest feeling about winning is that no one can take that away from you, and you and your team have earned that, and it's worth it. You think about all the work you put in to get across the finish line for whatever your campaign or your tactic is that you're entering. And it really is, it should be something that goes on your shelf. It should be something you put on your resume. It should be something that your organization can have forever. And I just think it's worth it to balance out the work that you need to put in, because you already did the work. This is just doing the work about you. And I think we're used to, in our professional careers, we're always doing the work for organization, nonprofit, and at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for you to really be recognized by peers in our chapter, and in another chapter, like Sarah said, where the other judges are. People like judging San Diego because we're really good here. So I think if you don't have all those materials, don't also let it hold you back. I think it's worth it to you just never know. You don't know who else is entering in that category. So don't let it seem like a something you can accomplish, or that you wouldn't get an award because you know, like Jamie said, I don't have all the measurements or all the analytics or whatever it is that you're counting on. But I would just urge you to enter anyway, because it's really worth it. It's validating, and it's something to really be proud of. And we don't get that opportunity to be acknowledged for our work all that often. So that's what I have to add. Sarah?
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to Barb's comment about, when in doubt, like, submit an entry. And something I wanted to mention earlier is just to remind everyone that we don't just have one winner for each category. So we actually have an award of excellence, which is like the top scoring entry. And then we also have up to 2 awards of merits, which are kind of like second place. So the odds of you getting at least, one of those 2, I'd say, is pretty high, as long as you kind of make sure you go through and kind of check the boxes on the key scoring criteria. So it definitely increases your chances of receiving that recognition. And then also, yeah, I mean, I found it to be just a huge like team morale booster too. Like, we have some people on my team who kind of came from different backgrounds and weren't necessarily like trained or went to school to like end up doing PR. And so for us, I think it's a reminder of like, we are good at what we do and we know what we're doing. And it's a great reminder to see those awards on the shelf, like when we come into the office every day, although lately it's been more of a virtual environment. Sometimes I show them on my camera, remind everyone, look at all the great work we've done. But yeah, it's a great team morale booster. And also it's been beneficial for us to, as a local government entity, a lot of cities don't place a lot of resource or budgeting on their communication efforts. It's often a nice to have and not a must have. And I feel like winning awards like this provides you with that extra like credibility to be able to improve yourself to your city leadership that, hey, like, we do provide value and we're great at what we do. And I mean, we've expanded our team quite a bit we've added a few more staff members, and I think that things like these award-winning entries help us with doing that to show the value.
We have one question in the chat. To clarify, a campaign should be considered complete enough to have its goal met so it can be evaluated against itself prior to September 17th. So the campaign, like, you have enough material to prove that you did what you set out before September?
Yeah, so I guess to that point, the one of the criteria for entries each year, and I want to make sure I get this right, is I believe your campaign or tactic has to take place between, I want to say it's June 30th and like July 1st. Like, so from last year of June to like July of this year.
Okay.
Like, your campaign or tactic has to have occurred during that time frame to qualify for this year. So
yeah, yes. This year it's July 1st, 2020 through June 31st. Yeah,
I always get them like mixed up. Thank you, Barb. I can't remember. But yeah, I will say it is helpful to submit things once they're closer to completion, because I feel like, to like Jamie's point earlier, it's easier for you to kind of show the evaluation side of how you maybe achieved what you were setting out to do when you put together your objectives and your planning. But even if you're not quite at the end, I don't necessarily think that rules you out for submitting this year. It's just like, I feel like it's helpful. It could sometimes make you more likely to win.
I also have a follow-up on tactics. When we're measuring those against the goal, are we measuring those against the goal of a larger campaign, or can it just be what the tactic was set out to do, not having to be part of something bigger?
When we're reporting on tactics, we will establish what the goal of that tactic is, but we will also incorporate results of the campaign altogether. So if like we're talking about a press conference, we would talk about how many media attended, what did the coverage look like, how many mentions did it get on social media? And then we will also talk to the bigger goals. So most of our clients are nonprofits working on social justice issues. So we'll talk about, oh, this press conference led to this policy change, or led to an overall fundraising effort of this much for the nonprofit. So I think we tend to do both to show the importance of the tactic within an overall effort.
Yeah, and I think we have attendees from the NAT and the food bank, I think. So you could probably, your measurement could be anything from donations, maybe to volunteers. How many more people did you get volunteering, or how many more people did you feed as a result of whatever you did to get the word out? And then for the museum, I mean, it kind of makes me think about the past year with all the challenges that happened during COVID and what you had to completely reinvent. And I know that takes time to figure it out. So like Arturo put the I think you put the deadline, the last date of entry, but
17th, yeah.
You could also ask us, I don't know, Sarah, what is the action that there might be some instances where we would give you like maybe an extra day. I don't know. I don't want to commit to that, but you have time to think about, you know, what you did to completely change the way you did your business. And I can't think of almost anybody who didn't do something and still have great results, still had people wanting more of your content, or, you know, did you do a podcast for the first time, or, you know, there's got to be something you did differently. And I think I just really hope that people in San Diego and the organizations that are here with us tonight think about what you did, because everybody did great work. You should be recognized for that.